Let's make a 3D haunted house. Let's start by downloading the SVG file. Then we're going to import that into Cricut Design Space and change all the score layers to score and attach those layers. Now let's get our cardstock ready, and back over to Design Space, let's click Browse All Materials, and let's search for cardstock with intricate cut. Click Done. Now click Edit Tools and make sure we have the scoring stylus selected and click Apply. Now let's insert our scoring stylus into the Cricut machine, and let's brayer on our cardstock onto a light grip cutting mat. I like using these Make Market mats, they're really great. Now let's load in the cardstock on the mat and move our star wheels, make sure they're positioned correctly. Click the flashing arrows, let's load the material. Now let's start scoring. Next, we're going to move on to cutting. Now let's unload the mat, and let's remove our cardstock from the mat. Peel away a corner and remove those centers where the windows are going to be, and the doors, and remove it from the mat. You can see those score lines. We're going to be folding those here soon. Now let's take some light gray and brayer that onto a light grip cutting mat. Let's cut out the bases for our windows. Now let's remove those pieces from the mat. You can use a spatula to get any of these small pieces off the mat. Make sure you're extra careful with those. You can take a weeding tool and poke out any of the centers. Now let's work on the black layers. We'll brayer a sheet of black onto a light grip cutting mat, and score and cut just like we did before. Now let's move on to cutting our dark gray layers. I'm using this really cool patterned cardstock here. It looks kind of like concrete. This dark gray is going to make for the base of the house and some of the window surrounds as well. Now we're going to brayer a sheet of orange. We're going to cut out these cute little pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns. Those are going to sit on the fence and on the porch of this 3D haunted house. Again, use your spatula to help you remove these little guys from the mat. Be super careful. You can also use the spatula to help remove those pieces of debris from the mat. Now we have our 4 pumpkins. Now let's search for acetate, and let's cut out the acetate windows. That's a see-through material that we're going to be using to create a window We're also going to be adding some tissue paper behind this as well, so we can see through the house to see the light, but we're not going to actually see the light. So let's take a look at all our pieces here. Organize them by color and put them off to the side. And let's start with our base. Now, the base has a couple of little slit cuts in here, and I like to open those up, make them a little bit wider just with an X-Acto knife. The house itself has tabs on the bottom, and those tabs are going to slide into these cuts, but it makes it a lot easier if they're made a little bit larger. Now let's take out some Barely Art Precision craft glue, and let's get ready to glue this up. But first we're going to fold every score line down. So let's start with the longer ends. And the shorter ones, and then each tab as well. Let's fold down these 4 tabs. Make sure they're nice and creased, and let's use some Barely Art Precision craft glue and put some glue onto the tab. And the tab's going to sit inside and connect to the other side of that base. Make sure you press and hold on both sides. Kind of use that. Cut that. And continue on to glue in the other 3 tabs. And press and hold. Add some more glue. The base should be nice and squared. Good, looks good. Now let's move on to our window pieces. Now, these windows consist of 3 different layers. You're gonna have the acetate, the black section, and then either the dark gray or the light gray that goes on top. So let's start with the round circular windows, and let's put some Barely Art Precision craft glue on the back side of that topmost window layer. Okay, just run a little bit of glue, and that dark gray is going to go on top of that black piece, just like this. Okay, make sure it's centered. Make sure you don't have any excess glue coming through. I like to look at it from the back sides and help you align it before it dries. Kind of push that down against the table, help secure that glue. If you see any excess glue, now's the time to kind of wipe it away. Okay, looks pretty good. Now let's add some glue to the back side of that. Now we're going to be taking our round acetate window, and we're going to be adding that to the back. You can add these acetate windows to the inside of the house itself. You want a little bit more depth, but I find it a little bit easier just to work with these windows all together like this. So you have the outside, the middle, and then the back acetate or glass piece. So now let's work on the other 5 circular windows. Okay, now let's work on the other windows. Okay, let's work on the back window. very top window. Great, our windows look good. Now let's work on that door frame and that spider web looking window above it. Let's add our acetate behind. Now make sure you don't press the acetate too hard against the glue, because you don't want the glue to seep in front of any of those openings. You don't want to obviously see any glue on the window. Wait for it to set up a bit before you press it a little bit harder. See, I'm lightly pressing this into position, making sure that glue doesn't seep. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, now we're going to add some tissue paper behind those windows. So I'm going to trace around the windows, and then I'm going to cut them a little bit smaller. So I'm using tissue paper just so we don't see the light. I'm going to add some lights inside of this haunted house, and I want to see the glow from the lights, but I don't want to see the lights themselves. So I'm going to use these pieces of tissue paper to kind of act like curtains. Give it a half transparent look. Make sure those pieces of tissue paper are smaller than the frame so you don't see any of it coming out of the side. So I cut a little bit smaller than where I traced. Then I simply add some more craft glue on the back side of those acetate windows. You don't need much glue. Then carefully, try not to wrinkle these pieces of tissue paper. They wrinkle super easy, so use caution, especially when you're pressing them down. Make sure you do it nice and smooth. You don't want to see any wrinkles. And work on the rest. Trim off the excess if you need to. Okay, now our windows are done. Let's work on gluing up these jack-o'-lanterns. They're going to sit on the porch and on the fence, so make sure they're oriented in the right direction and add some of the craft glue to the back side of the orange pieces. And obviously avoid the eye and the mouth openings. And we're going to place those on top of the black section. You're going to be able to see that black through the eyes and the mouth. Like that. That's cute. I like that. That looks really cool. Now we're going to add the windows and then the window frames to the pieces of house themselves. Okay, so back to some more Barely Art Precision craft glue. We're going to add some craft glue to the back of the round windows. We have those different layers, and you can see that tissue paper on the back. Now position this the best you can from the front. Make sure it's secure enough, but then I like to look at it from the back to make sure those windows are centered perfectly. Very hard to tell unless you look at it from the back side. Now, run a small bit of craft glue around those window frames. They're very thin, and they're doubled up, so use caution there. Make sure the door can open. Glue on those round circular windows just like you did on the other side. And then the square windows as well. Put those into place. Work on those window frames. Be real careful. That's why this Barely Art Precision Craft Glue works really great with that precision tip. It really allows you to put a small amount of glue on those little tiny strips of paper. I like to do the smaller inner portion first, just to help me position so there's room. Try to keep everything even. Now glue on the door frame and window. Make sure that that door can open. Now we have our little bits of door accessories. 4 little sections and 2 sections for the top and bottom. That dark gray goes on top of the black, and then they all fit like this on the door. The longer rectangles are in the middle, and then those squares are on the top and bottom of that. Make sure you position this perfectly. If this is off at all, you're going to see it right away, so move things over while it's still setting. Let's add some glue to the last little bit here. And set that into place. Make sure it's evenly spaced. It looks pretty good. Okay, we're getting there. Looks good. Okay, now we have both of our sections of house here. Now we're going to have to glue those together. So the section of the house with the door has a tab on the right hand side. I'm going to go ahead and fold this down, and we're going to glue this tab to the other section of house. Okay. Let's add some craft glue to that tab. Don't add too much so it doesn't seep out onto the front, but this needs to be secured pretty well, so make sure it's lined up at the bottom. See? Make sure it's straight and following that score line. Okay. Now let's fold up the rest of the score lines. Okay. I'm going to fold them all down. Kind of find that score line and start creasing it. Okay. And make sure it's nice and creased. And move on to the next. Okay, now we're ready to start gluing the house together. So that last tab there, we're going to add some more craft glue to it. And carefully align things. Make sure it's aligned on the bottom. Make sure you don't have any excess glue. If you do, wipe it away before it dries. Once it sets up a little bit from the outside, I like to reach my hand inside of it and press that tab against the table. Now, make sure you, as you work on the roof and the other parts of this house, make sure you leave this sitting like that so it kind of keeps its rectangular shape. You don't want to lay it flat. It would kind of skew on you. So it looks pretty good. Now's your chance to get any of that excess glue off before it sets up too much. Looks pretty good. So set that off to the side. Make sure we're storing it up and down. Then we're going to work on this top part of our house here. Okay. It's got a window, so let's add the window there. Make sure it's aligned by looking at it from the back. Now we have this extra little tab here, this second piece here, that's gonna have to be glued to the main section. So let's fold that tab down, the tab on the left-hand side of it, depending on how you look at it, but this tab here, okay, like that, the left-hand side with the flat edge on the top. Okay, now we're gonna add some craft glue to that, and that's gonna go underneath that main side of the house. Okay, you don't want to see the tabs, so they're always going inside. Okay, so this lines up with the top. Okay, now it's the bottom because we flipped it over, but I'm pressing against that tab and the table. Make sure it's nice and secure. Make sure there's no excess glue and press down. Looks pretty good. The window looks nice. Okay, we're actually not going to need that smaller window frame until we put that little roof piece on. So before we do that, let's move on here. Okay. But before we add that roof piece, we're going to add the little shingles. Now notice there's small and long versions, and then they're different. So you can see there's one, you can tell the difference between them by the sides. So we're going to alternate those. Now you want the scallop edges facing down on this part, and we're going to use the long pieces here, and don't worry about the overage there because we're going to be cutting this to size here. I'm going to salvage the little extra I cut off. Now once you're midway up, you can use the smaller sections, save those longer ones for the other pieces of roof. Keep those scallops facing down and go all the way to the top. Now I know you covered up that hole, but that's okay. We're gonna be cutting that out with an X-Acto knife. But first we're gonna turn it over and we're gonna trim the excess off with some scissors. Okay, so take out some scissors and follow that curved line. It's gonna be a little tricky, but make sure you can see that curved line and just simply trim off those shingles. Just like this. Okay, not too bad. See, it looks really nice and smooth from the other side. Let's trim off the other side. Try to do this in one clip. Nice and smooth, that looks great. Now if you need to, trim off that top as well. There we go, looks good. Now make sure those pieces are nice and secure. Looks great. And again, you want to stagger those pieces so they're alternating. They're not lined up, they're alternating. It's an alternating stagger, if you will. So now flip it over and use your X-Acto knife. Make sure you're working on a cutting mat of some sort so you don't cut up your work surface. And just simply cut out that circle from the back. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to get as close as you can. I'm going to kind of follow that arc. Cut away that material. Then I can have the opportunity to trim up a little bit if I need to. It doesn't have to be perfect because this other part of the window frame is going to sit on top of that. So, and glue all those pieces down to that top part. Make sure you don't glue too far over on the shingle pieces. Make sure you avoid where they're going to be, where the fold lines are. So now let's fold them all down and add some more craft glue to those tabs. And again, those tabs go on the inside. Start gluing that up. Now a couple of the tabs actually fold up. Most of these tabs fold down, but there's a few tabs that fold up, and those are going to connect to the main part of the house. So, and it's okay if you fold them down. You can fold them back up here, but as I'm putting this house together, this top part of the house together, all these tabs are folded down. You can see there's another one. Looks like I'm going to add some glue here to both of these tabs just to make it easier on myself. I'm going to connect these. I'm going to press and get them secure before I reach in there and press against the tab again and the table. Okay, you can see those other tabs are folded up. Those bottom 6 tabs. Okay. Those two on the bottom are folded down because they're going to go inside. You can see those last 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 5 tabs that are folded up. So, okay, now let's work on the shingles for the main part of the roof. Okay, now those have some slits in the top that we're going to be inserting these fence pieces. So let's make them larger as well, like we did for the base. And we're going to avoid those so the fence pieces can slide in there. Make sure you fold this roof down so you know where the center is here. And again, you have 2 different pieces, 2 different versions of the short ends. The short ends are going to go on these smaller pieces here, and that center of the house is going to fit through the opening there. So let's add some craft glue to the roof itself. Make sure, now we're not trimming off the excess here, so be careful, make sure they're not only straight, but that there's no overlap on the sides. Then alternate the different versions so the stagger is it's easy. Okay, now work on the other side. Same thing. Make sure the scallops are facing down, and you alternate the versions. Doesn't have to be perfect, but try to put the same number of shingles on the left and the right hand side, and try to space them evenly so they're kind of uniform from right to left. Now turn this over or spin it around, and then when you do the back side, make sure those scallops are facing down again, right? You want those scallops facing down on either side. And since this roof's going to be folded, now you're going to be working on the back side of the roof, right? Make sure you alternate those template versions. One is a little bit more round on the edge, and one is like straight on the edge. And they're staggered, so the scallops have a nice, like, shingled effect. Okay, that looks pretty good. Make sure you don't do too many. You want to make sure there's room for those fence pieces. Okay, let's take those out. Those are cut out of that dark gray. The specialty cardstock was only one-sided, so if I was going to do that again, I might make those fence pieces like a cardstock that was the same color on both sides, but it looks okay. I'll slide those tabs through the openings and then add some glue onto those tabs and push them down. They're fairly small, so use a pencil or use my X-Acto knife just to push those tabs down once I put glue on them. And then do the other side. Doesn't really matter which way you fold those tabs, but I do like to glue them down just so it's nice and secure. You don't want these fences falling out. Now there's a center fence piece as well for that center top part of the house. Probably should have glued that in before I added the roof part, the shingle part, but you can slide that behind there if you do it last. It fits pretty good. Now we have our main section of our house, our top section of the house, and then our roof. So we'll add the roof last. Now this is probably the hardest part of this project, is gluing this center top part of this house onto the main section. Now you can use hot glue, it dries quicker, might be a little easier, but I'm using craft glue, so I'm just going to add some glue to these 3 tabs here, one on the bottom, one on the sides. Not those top 2 tabs yet, that's going to be for the roof to secure to. So just those 3 tabs. I'm going to add some glue. See there, 1, 2, 3, and that's going to go inside. Now this is a little bit awkward to hold, and it's definitely top heavy, so kind of do your best to turn it sideways and get them set up. To reach your other hand inside of here to help push against those tabs. You can't use the table here because it's not flat, so it's a little tricky. do your best. Once it's dry, you are ready to move on to the roof. Right, see those tabs there? They're glued in there. Okay, so now I like to leave the back side of this roof open so I have access to the light to put it inside of there and also turn it off and on throughout the October month. So I'm not going to be adding glue to those back tabs. Now the roof doesn't have tabs itself, just the house part, so you can see there's some tabs all the way around. I'm just avoiding putting glue on the back 3 tabs, and I'm just going to put it on the 4 tabs here on the front and the sides. Okay, I guess 6 different ones. So there's 1, there's 2, and a 3 for that side. And 3 more tabs here for the other side. There's 4, 5. Careful not to get any glue on the front side of that house. Then 6. And again, I'm going to avoid the gluing that back side of the roof. If you're not going to add a light, you can glue it down, but I like to have it continue to gain access to this as I turn the light on and off. So slide that roof on. Make sure those fence pieces are not too close. They're a little close, but I can open those up a little bit. Okay, the roof should fit on there pretty good. But again, you're gonna have to reach your hand inside of here to help push those tabs. This can be tricky as well. Kind of hard to see here, but I've got my hand inside of there pushing those tabs down. Okay. Push those tabs, those 6 tabs, push those down. Add a little bit more glue if you need to. This part needs to be fairly secure. Want that roof nice and secure. Try not to have any gaps if you can help it. It can be a little tricky, but okay, it looks pretty good. Let's see, now let's add these center, or actually the side pieces. They're these little valances for the sides of the house. So you have two sets of these. You can see I've glued the dark gray on top of the light gray. Now I'm going to glue this whole piece just to the top, and it's okay that it overlaps that circular window on the side. So don't add glue all the way to the bottom where I'm holding there, because that's going to like overlap, or it's going to kind of hang off to the side of the house, so you don't need glue on that. You don't have to add glue on to those smaller pieces either if you want to like bend it up a little bit over the roof or over the window. But I'm just going to add a little bit, just not on the very ends, because you're going to see those that'll hang over the house. I don't want to see glue on that side. So just use that point to align it. You can go almost all the way to the top. I like to leave a little bit there, right? And press it down. See, that center piece kind of goes on top of that window. It looks kind of nice. Okay, now flip it over and do the other side. Same thing. See where my thumb is, do not add glue there. Just add glue right about up there. Okay, you can add some glue onto those smaller decorative pieces that are going to go on top of the round window. I suppose I should have glued this on first, but since it's overlapping, I like to do this at the end, because I don't want to have to deal with trying to fold this house up and glue it up with those pieces overlapping or hanging off. So I add these little side pieces last. I also didn't want to glue those on before I added the roof. Wasn't sure how far the roof would come down, so again, another reason I'm just adding these at this stage here. We're getting close. This house is starting to take shape. Looks pretty good. We've got our main section glued up. We got our top centerpiece glued in. We have our roof glued on top of as well. Looks pretty good. Now again, we're going to be using those bottom tabs to go inside. Now those don't have scores. Those are tabs that, they have scores, but you don't want to fold them until you put them through the slits in the base. Okay, so hopefully you didn't bend those yet. If you did, it's okay. It's still possible to stick in there, but it makes it a lot easier if they're not folded yet, and it makes this a lot easier if those slits on the base are widened with an X-Acto knife. This can be a bit tricky, trying to get all those tabs in. You can get a couple in, get the front in but not the back, and you have to do some finagling here to get them all inserted. But sorry, it's hard to see here, but it's like I missed a few tabs, so I'm just going to lift it up from the back and see if I can't push those tabs in. We have tabs on the side as well. Make sure they're pushed all the way down. You don't really want to see too much light through the bottom of this house. It's a little bit tricky, especially once you fold them over, but once they're all inserted properly, kind of flip this upside down and make sure, right? Make sure you can see all those tabs. Now there's a few tabs. There's 1, 2, 3 in the front of the porch for the pumpkins and the cat. So those won't have any tabs in it right now. So that's okay. Just fold these tabs any direction you like, really. I'm just folding them towards the outside, kind of folding them down. Okay, this just allows me to add some glue behind them so I can set those down, because inevitably you're going to be picking this house up and down, and you definitely don't want the house to slide out of the base. So it takes a little bit of time for this glue to set up until I got some glue on my fingers there. It's a little messy, but you kind of have to push. Make sure you don't get glue onto the house when you're doing this. You see, you don't want to have that gap. See, I'm trying to push this down and remove any gap there. It can be super tricky. Make sure I push before this glue sets. I like to make sure those tabs are as far down as I can without crushing that base. You don't want to collapse the base. I suppose you could have folded this and glued the sides of the base after the fact, but probably not. This gives you, since it's already together, it gives you an opportunity to push down a little bit. Yeah, maybe I would use hot glue on the tabs again, just so they dry a little quicker. But so now we're going to work on our fence. Okay, there's 3 pieces of the fence. One is for the back and it's nice and straight. The other 2 have these little pumpkins on either side. Those are going to flank the front door. And then there's 1 score line in each. It's going to be a little tricky, but before we move on there, I'm going to add the smaller jack-o'-lanterns just right on top of those pumpkin pieces on the fence. Then I'm going to fold these fences down. It's going to be really tricky to get on that score line, so do your best. Kind of position them there like that. Looks pretty good. Now, also, use caution when you're gluing this down. Like, it glues onto the side of the base, but only halfway up. So you don't want to add glue any higher than the middle and the bottom borders there. You don't want to add glue too high up, because you'll see it on the other side. So be real cautious there. Okay, make sure it's flat. It's nice and straight. It's not wavy at all. You can add glue to those up and down pieces of fence, but I don't feel like that's necessary. You can do it on the one on the corner if you want. Just a little bit there. That's good enough. Same thing on the other side. Just make sure they don't go down too far. Make sure they're nice and flat and smooth. Now it's really taking shape. I love the fence. They have little bats hanging there. It looks really cool. Now the back piece, same thing. Now there's no score line, but make sure you only add glue to the bottom and the middle part. Oops, be careful. You don't want to get any glue on the front part. It's a small little narrow area to put glue. That's why this Barely Art Precision Craft glue, and it's ultra fine precision tip works really great. I would not want to do this with any other kind of glue. Maybe some hot glue for certain sections of this, but frankly, I don't like hot glue that much. I always burn myself, so if I got to take some extra time with craft glue, that's okay. It's also a little bit more forgiving. It takes a lot longer to dry than hot glue. So now we're on to the cobweb parts, right? The little spider webs. Now make sure these are oriented in the right direction. There's 2 of them, 2 tabs on the inside and 1 on the outside. Kind of fold those tabs down and add some glue to the top part. Okay, these are just going to be kind of gluing up under the soffit area there on the side of the house. Okay, make sure you do both sides and make sure that 3rd tab is towards the house, and make sure there is a left and a right. Now, once the glue is dried, you can push those down a bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. Those can kind of hang farther. Those can hang down as far as you want, depending on how much you crease those tabs. They look really cool in front of those circular windows on the front of this house. It looks really neat. It's probably my favorite part of the house. The accessories, they're really detailed. So now we have our last 2 pumpkins, the large one and the medium-sized one. Those are going to go into those slits in the base of the house on the left. Okay. Kind of hard to see here, sorry, but then we have our cat. You want to kind of have that cat facing towards the door. Just slide that tab into that last slit in the base. You can see it there. Now turn it upside down and fold those tabs down. You can fold them up if you want, it doesn't really matter. Just fold those tabs down, and we're going to be adding some glue to those tabs, just like we did for the tabs on the house. Then we're going to add some glue to the tree and kind of stick it on the left-hand side of the house, in the front of the window. Looks really cool. Now we're going to fold up our stairs. This is an alternating fold. The tabs fold down, and then of course some of the stairs fold up. So kind of use caution there. It can be a little tricky. It does make sense once you work with that staircase there. It's alternating folds. I think like 1 is up, so it's a little bit awkward, but all the other ones are down. So add some glue to those little tabs and glue them inside. Start getting this kind of squared off. Make sure all the score lines are folded before you start gluing this down. Looks like I missed one, then I add. I think those top bits, those top tabs are actually glued down, right? So they can fit underneath that top step. Right, like that. Looks pretty good. Press and hold from the inside. Okay, looks good. Now I think we're gonna add some glue to these last tabs on the back. This will help keep this staircase, this little stoop, nice and rigid. Then we're gonna add some glue to the last tabs, and then we're just gonna simply attach it to the front of the house, right in between the fence. Right, make sure that you press that top step down so it's flush with the base. Now let's take out our lights. I'm going to add 2 little fairy lights here. I'm just going to turn them on first just so I can kind of see the effect. Now you can, add these lights to the top of the house, but I like to just kind of put them in there. It keeps the top floor with a softer glow. And yeah, with that tissue paper, you don't actually ever see the lights. The tissue paper makes the acetate nice and kind of half opaque or half transparent, so you can still see the glow of the light, but you don't see the light itself. It's a really cool looking 3D haunted house. This looks awesome. I like this. I think I'm going to add a piece of acetate and tissue paper behind the door. I think that'll help, because I do see some of those LED fairy lights coming through. You can open that door as much as you want to, kind of keep it half open with a crack open. Gives it kind of an ominous look and lets some of that light kind of shine through. I wish I would have added those tabs a little bit lower. I can see some light through the bottoms, but That's okay. You could add some moss or some other embellishments on that porch to kind of help hide those if you want. But I think with the fence, it hides it pretty well. And it does kind of create a nice glow. So it looks pretty good. Wow. That 3D haunted house turned out awesome. This was really fun to make with some cardstock from Michaels, some Barely Art Precision craft glue, and a really awesome SVG file. I'll have a link in the description where you can download this SVG file. It is just perfect. I added a little bit of moss to the base here. I think it gives it a neat little look. And this is a great little Halloween decoration. Your kids will really like this. This is super fun. Cool. Good job.